Welcome to Love at Any Age and Talks, where love doesn't come with an expiration date. I am your dating coach, your truth teller, your host, and a firm believer that love just gets better and better as we age. Today's conversation is so special. I have somebody that I have been hoping to talk to for many moons now. Her name is Lisa Copeland. You may know her because she is a very well-known dating coach for women over 50. She's been at this since 2012. She wrote the winning dating formula for women over 50, and she has been featured everywhere, in writing and on film. And it's because this is her area of expertise, from personal experience as well as years and years of helping women, just like the ones who come and listen to this podcast, get better at dating, and do it from a more grounded place. Today, we are going to cover my idea of the 8 things high caliber, emotionally available men are looking for in women, because I think sometimes women misunderstand what men are really looking for. I'm going to lay out what my ideas are. She's going to lay out what her ideas are. We're going to debate it, and we're going to leave you with a nice solid list and a clear understanding of what men really want. We're also going to flip that around and talk about the misunderstandings women have about what men want and how badly that can go. And lastly, we're going to talk about the kinds of questions you need to ask in early dating, always a popular topic, and what's most important about those questions. If you do this wrong, you will not only be bored, but you will not get the information you need to find out what you need to know about the other person. Let's get into it. Lisa, welcome. Thanks for being here. Hi, Lori. Thanks for having me. All right, let's get into this. So, first, just let's establish a little bit of credibility. What is the personal story for how you got into dating coaching? I didn't know how to date. I got married when I was 21, and that marriage lasted 24 years. And I took time to heal after the marriage. And then I went out to date, but I didn't know what I was doing. I cried all the time. I mean, just constantly. I didn't know how men think. I didn't know. I was like a soccer mom. And so I didn't know how to dress for a date. I knew how to flirt, but I didn't know how to dress for a date. And I called my sister and I said, there's no one to help me my age, which was true. And everyone was young. Coaches were young. Right, yeah. So I called her and she said, oh my God, you've got this. You are so resourceful. You can do this. And that's when I started learning about men, about the best ways to date. I started to have a great time. And my friend said, what's going on? Why are you having fun? And we think it sucks. You're like, well, and then I wrote a book about that. Well, I do now. I did a few years later after that, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so I did learn that talked about how many people were getting divorced. And I know how miserable I was because we just didn't date. We fell into relationships. And I didn't want another woman to suffer the way I suffered. I mean, literally, I would come home and cry. Yeah. And so I figured out the tools and I started helping women over 50 because it's a whole different age to do that than when you're in your 20s and 30s. And it can still be fun. I have clients get married. I have clients live with men. I have clients have live apart. There's so many options when you're over 50 where you're not geared to having babies. It's more play and fun. Exactly. That's why I love this particular niche. We can finally focus on what we really want. Okay, beautiful. I love that you're coming from experience, right? That is, the experience I'm coming from is having a very long, successful marriage that almost ended in divorce. And that is very different from you were out there experiencing all the things. And that is why I wanted specifically to speak to you. So how I do this is I come up with an idea, and the idea I came up with was the top 8 things that high caliber men are looking for in a woman, high caliber woman. And then I think to myself, well, I'm not sure this is true. It seems to be true based on my client's experience, but let me ask another expert. And so for a very long time, I have thought you are the expert that I want to ask this of. And so what I want to do is I want you to tell me what you think the number one thing men are looking for in a woman. And then I'm going to tell you what I think, and then we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to have a little conversation to see if we can't come up with our agreed upon list, or maybe we'll disagree. That'll be fun too. And then everybody who's listening or watching should write in the comments before you even hear what we have to say. Write in the comments, what do you think we're going to say? Are you going to be right or wrong? It's a big mystery because I know that you probably feel this as well, Lisa, is that women misunderstand what men want. I hear it all the time. Men just want sex. Men just want blonde. Men just want, all these sort of cliches that are heartbreaking and hurtful, and it doesn't turn out to be in my experience, because I coach men to what men actually want. So you have the mic. Okay, so my number one thing that men have told me that they want is a woman who feels confident about herself and feels good about herself. And why do you think that's so important? Women say, no, that's not true. I have a powerhouse job. They don't want that. That's not true. What they don't want is a woman telling them what to do, where to do, how to do it, and when to do it. But they love what you do. They really do. And men will show you that they're proud of you by telling people, oh my God, my girlfriend does this, because they like it. They like to brag, and that comes from your confidence, and they like to see you confident. And I think that what goes along with that is men love your smile, because it makes you come across really warm. Really warm. Yeah. I was actually just talking to Alison Armstrong about how happiness is fuel for a man. And if you can radiate happiness that comes from within, not because of something he did. She told me a very interesting statistic, and she researches this, which is that only 5% of a woman's happiness comes from what a man can do. So a man likes to provide that last 5%, but if we're not providing our own happiness to ourselves, and I would actually put happiness on the list of what a man is looking for. Be even confidence, yes, but I would add happiness to that list because it is such a juice for a man, and it shows him that you are capable of being happy, which is the gas in his tank. All right, what's the next one on your list if you had to pick another one? Oh, the next one on my list. A woman that receives. We're so used to being, so I have to do it all because we had to survive. And then we forgot to allow a man to give to us. And a woman that will let a man be a man and receive what he has to offer, that's a big thing for a man. On my list, it's written as you represent as somebody who might need him or find him useful, right? Where there is a role that he can play in your life, and you appreciate the role that he plays, what he provides, that you don't provide for yourself. So I think we agree on that one for sure. Yeah, and you just said another key one, which will be my next one. And men are looking for women that will appreciate them. Men feel really underappreciated because we're very detail-oriented as women, and so we can be really critical. And that's hard on a man because it's a superpower. I even think I know I did. I was like, no, I'm telling you everything you're doing wrong so you can be better. What is the problem? That's right, because men fall in love with the real you, but as women, we fall in love with a man's potential. So that criticism, we don't see it as criticism. We see it as, I'm pushing you to your potential. But men don't want to be pushed. They want to, they want you to love them as they are. Yeah. And I put admiration on my list, which again is a good segue from what you've just said, is that a man wants to be admired. And obviously we want to choose men who are deserving of admiration, but we all know human beings have positive and negatives about them. So it's an act of love or an action to look for what you can admire in someone and to focus on or highlight that. Have you found that to true as well? The admiration piece? I was going to put that in the theme of respect. A mostly healthy man, he has been usually taught by his mother to respect women. But the man needs your respect, because if you don't respect his decisions, you don't respect how he lives his life, he senses that. You don't even have to say it. It's your energy comes off like that. And then they'll say, well, maybe you should find someone who's a better fit for you. And when they use that term, they're using it because they think that they're not enough for you because you've just told them something that made them feel that way. And this is hard for women. Women as women, we process things. And when we process things with a man, he doesn't hear it a lot of times like we hear as women because we're community-oriented. And men are like hero-oriented, not meaning Superman, meaning I want to be there for you. I want to make your life easier. I think that's my next one too. You'll have to do too is that allowing a man to make your life easier. A really good guy wants to do for you, to make it easier. So like if you're sick, they want to bring you chicken soup. They will say to them, I can do it. I can do it. Let him do it. Don't be a hero, ladies. Don't be a hero. So I want to talk about the last thing you said about respect, because I think if my listeners are listening, they're in early dating at best. They're either thinking about dating or they're in early dating. And so my question on their behalf is, What if you don't respect something? Do you alter yourself? Do you change your mind? Or do you speak up about that? Or do you just say no? Thank you if you actually don't at first glance respect someone's, let's say, their politics or someone's preferences or how someone lives. What's your take on that? Our core values, how they live their life, are core values. And if you don't match with his core values, it's not going to work. Like, you can have fantastic chemistry. He can have every single one of your qualities, and he can still not be a fit if your values don't match, right? That is. But in terms of respect, everybody falls at times. Like, we don't like how someone does something. But it's really what the alignment is with your core values, And it's, we have to watch, because we are looking for perfection a lot of times over 50 because we're afraid of failing. So as a result of that, we're looking for instant attraction, instant chemistry. We're not looking for the right stuff. And you don't really know how a guy lives his life on a first date. Unless he comes in, I had a guy when I was dating in my early 50s, and we had a great phone conversation, okay? He was great. He sounded like, oh my God, he's so amazing. And he walks in. We were meeting at Barnes & Noble for coffee and tea. I wasn't a dating coach. We were meeting at Barnes & Noble for coffee or tea, and I don't see him. And I pick up my phone and I call him, and in walks this 400-pound guy. He was very thin and, nice looking, because I'm not about them. But he didn't look 400 pounds in his picture. They were old. So something like that is, they don't respect you, and that's what by telling you the truth, or they think if you get to know me, that's a deal breaker. If you get to know me, you'll like me. No. And that's why it's also important as a woman, you're honest about your age, you're honest about how you look, because otherwise they'll say, she wasn't honest about this. What else is she not going to tell me, right? And that's not a sign of respect. So I like that you're mentioning core values. And I'm going to take a little segue here on a little side trip, but we're going to come back to the 8, supposedly 8-item list. But you have this wonderful resource that you have offered my people, which I really appreciate, called the 35 Awesome First Date Questions plus 9 Exit Strategies. And I do really appreciate you offering that to folks. They're going to eat it up. I'm wondering, are those 35 questions geared towards learning about core values? Is that, I'm just assuming that, because my question is, how do you find out someone's core values? So that's a really good question, by the way, and that takes time. That's why you want to give really nice guys a second, a third, a fourth chance. But so many women go, didn't feel it in my body, didn't feel everything butterflies. Yeah. And the questions really help you connect on a history level. And what made me think about this was also before I was a dating coach. Oh, by the way, the 9 exit strategies once I became a dating coach came from the guy that came in for at 400 pounds. I thought, you needed 9. You needed 9 exit strategies. They have ways to get out, options. But the questions, I went on a date with a guy. This is when I very first started dating, after my first marriage ended, after 24 years. So we're talking about where were you when Kennedy was shot? And I said I was in 3rd grade. Okay, I got the scene. We're starting to laugh and we go, you know what? I think that we're actually looking for women in men's bodies. And it was like such an aha on us because we usually are, and men aren't women. They don't process like women. They're really structured to step up for you. And we don't get that. We treat them like women, and it just doesn't work. Like, we waste what's great about them, and then we harangue them for what's not like us, right? Or like our girlfriends, which is like a double loss for them, and they feel it. I mean, men are it's so funny. Women complain about the dating sites, but I coach men too, and these poor men, it's so much harder for them. And I try to explain to women, like, these men are just bedraggled by this. They're just ruined by this experience. If they get to you, it's because they are so strong and have such fortitude if they're coming to you on these dating sites and still trying and still bringing their A game. It's really a testament to their strength. I want to women too, by the way. It's not easy for anyone. The problem with online dating is the person that you swipe left to in online, you might be interested in if you met them in real life. You're missing a personality. And we're telling stories about who they are when we're looking at their profile, but you don't know who they are. Like, look at the guy I told you about, that he was great on the phone. He was cute in his picture. hey, this guy must be great, right? It can go either way. It can go either way. It's wrong. This is why I tell people to have video chats, because at least I don't want you going out until you've seen what the person looks like. Now, almost everyone admits, by the way, that they lie on their profiles. Age, height, pictures, right? Like everyone's doing it of all genders. I would say sensual, open to sex. Do men always want sex right away? I think they'll try and go for it. I do. It's better. I remember when I dated after that 24-year marriage, I was, I wasn't clear as throat in my 20s, I was in my 40s. And in my 40s, men, it was all about sex. It was very physical. And then I dated again in my 50s, and I noticed it's not that sex wasn't there, but they were looking for more intimacy also in terms of friendship, not just total sex. And I think it's men of age, women too, their sexual dysfunction. Yeah. And for men, that's the biggest. I mean, it's very hard on their ego with the sexual dysfunction and what they can and can't do. And unfortunately, so many pharmaceuticals that people are on really is a problem. And actually, the pharmaceutical blue pills and the other ones, like Cialis can't override blood pressure medicine and all those. So it's embarrassing for them. And I think sex is on their mind. They don't lose that. And I think that it's very scary for a woman when a man starts asking about sex really early, because it feels threatening. And then they want to cut you off, or they'll block you a lot of the times because you come across as being a predator versus it's your natural self. But hang on to that. Don't do that in the beginning, guys. It's okay. Third date. Yeah, much further down the road. Yeah, I think third, fourth, fifth, whatever. Yeah, don't you agree? And to women, I think we need to say, don't poo-poo his sex drive, because the alternative is he's just looking for a friend. And then what are we doing on the dating sites or dating, right? So we don't want to poo-poo it. We don't want to throw it out with the bathwater, right? But we want to pace it properly for our comfort and well-being. It's both sides, both sides. You're training him to do nothing for you, and you're creating a situation for yourself where you're going to become an overgiver and get nothing back because you've taught him to not give because it's not safe and you don't like it what he gives. I remember we learned that when we were first having babies, right? What we wouldn't let them do the things, and so they learned that they didn't have to, or, and then we're like, wait a second. I think we threw that baby out with the bathwater too, and we should have maybe encouraged them and been okay with them doing it their way. Okay? Here we are again, right? Thinking we can do it better than them because we have. We've been alone, right? You haven't dated, you haven't been with somebody for years or decades. You can do it by yourself, but maybe you don't want to anymore. Yeah. All right. Talk to me about, so here's one I hear a lot. I'm sure you hear those too. I don't want to be a nurse or a purse. Oh yeah. And whenever I hear that, I go, listen, if you're madly in love with the love of your life, you're going to take care of each other till you die. That's going to require some nursing both ways. So come on, like hold on, right? Let's think this through before you just cast caring for somebody out. How much does you caring for me matter to a man? Well, let's talk about the nurse and the purse part first. So, you've been in a very long-term marriage. Of course, this is natural for you. You've been there through a lot. You've had kids. You've done a lot. When you're coming in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and people haven't been taking care of themselves or they're not doing great, it's understandable why they don't want to become the nurse, because they don't have a history with this person, right? You haven't earned. And so that's a really big thing. And women have given themselves up in relationships. I hear this from women all the time. I don't want to give myself up again. And that's really what they're saying is, if I have to become a nurse, I'm not going to have my life again. And that does stop some women from dating because they don't realize that there are choices, there are options, all of that. And it's a real problem when you're dating in later life, right? And will you help the other person? I don't know. This is an issue. Do you live together? How committed are you? If you're married, you should be. If you're in a committed relationship, it would be nice to, you're committed to this person. But it's, how do we know they're not going to end up taking care of us, right? There's no we can. Exactly. And I think men are better about that, by the way. They don't say, I don't want to be a nurse. Right. Well, I think to your point, they are caretakers. They want to make your life better. They want to take care of you. They are actually compelled biologically to do so. And we are actually compelled biologically to be taken care of. It's just that we have been in a masculine role, or we've been on our own, so we've had to accommodate and compensate, and so we actually don't know how to receive that care. And we're depleted, so we don't want to now have to give that care to ourselves and to another person. But how do you coach your clients to message that, to communicate that without being offensive or just sounding cold? This is another thing of getting to know people. I mean, this is what I was talking about earlier on when I said people are looking for perfection. And it's hard. It's hard when you're older to have that balance, because it is scary in terms of, am I going to get saddled with something I don't want to get saddled with? But on the other hand, what are you missing by not being in a relationship? What are you going to have by being in a relationship? And it's as you get to the commitment part, that's stuff you'll have to talk about. But it takes time to get to know someone. And you can't make these decisions based on chemistry still, right? In the early moments, because we're so enamored with a bad boy, because bad boys. Still at this age? Yeah. Bad boys make ring our bells. The problem is a bad boy can tell you whatever you want to hear, but they never follow up with action. And men are about action. That is the true way that you can tell you have a quality man. Right? So when you say a good guy or a nice guy, you mean someone who follows up with what they say? No, I mean nice guys. Like, you know how they always say nice guys finish last? That's the best guy to be with. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. The insight and the wisdom from the field, right? Not from just your personal field and the field of all the women that you've helped. It's called the 3 Secrets to Finding and Maintaining Healthy Love. And it's going to help you define your head, heart, and hoo-ha criteria regarding what you're looking for in a mat. So, again, you can like the video, also subscribe the channel. I will see you next week.